I sat down at my parents' kitchen table, the same one we used to gather around for birthdays, Sunday dinners, and late-night stories. The air smelled like pot roast and garlic bread. Warm, familiar, safe. But that night, they looked at me like a stranger. My mother folded her napkin, then said, "We finalized our will," my father added. "We wanted you to hear it from us directly." Then one of my younger brothers leaned back and smirked. "Basically, Claire, you get nothing. Everything goes to us." I thought they were joking. I waited for someone to laugh, but no one did. Not even my father, who wouldn't meet my eyes. Not even my mother, who just said, "You're doing fine, Claire. You've always been the strong one. Your brothers still need support." They cut me out. The daughter who paid off their mortgage. The sister who funded tuition, car repairs, emergency bills, erased. So I stood up, heart pounding, and said, "Then from now on, don't expect anything from me." And I walked out, not just from their house, but from every lie I'd ever been told about what family is supposed to mean. If your parents looked you in the eye and told you that you didn't matter, what would you do? Would you stay and keep giving? Or would you finally walk away? Let me know where you're watching from. And tell me, have you ever been the one holding everything together, only to be left behind? My name is Claire Dawson. I'm 33 years old, and I live in Seattle, Washington. By all appearances, I've done well for myself. I work as a senior financial analyst at a mid-sized firm downtown. I own my apartment. I manage my own investments. I've never asked my family for a single cent. But what no one sees, what I rarely even admit to myself, is how much of my life I've spent propping everyone else up. My parents, Paul and Linda, always said they raised us to be a team. But in reality, it was always 2 against 1. My younger twin brothers, Eli and Ryan, were the golden boys. Charming, reckless, messy. They dropped out of college, switched careers every 6 months, and somehow always landed softly on my wallet. I paid for Eli's 3rd attempt at trade school. I co-signed Ryan's car loan when he wanted a better image for his influencer brand. I sent my parents monthly checks to help with the mortgage when Dad's business slowed down. And every time I sent that money, I told myself, it's just temporary. It's what family does. One day, they'll appreciate it. But that day never came. They called me the responsible one, the successful one. But what they really meant was, you're the one we can keep taking from without ever having to say thank you. And I let them. Because I thought love meant sacrifice. Because I thought being useful would one day make me enough. That night at the dinner table shattered the illusion. They didn't even flinch when they told me I was being cut out. They spoke about it like logistics, like divvying up leftovers. And when I pushed back, when I asked, "After everything I've done for you, this is what I get?" My mother just sighed and said, "Claire, you always make everything about money." I wanted to scream, but I didn't. I just sat there, and for the first time in my life, I stopped trying to be what they wanted. Because that version of me, the always giving, never questioning daughter, wasn't a daughter at all. She was a resource. And I had finally reached the end. I drove home in silence. No music, no podcasts, just the quiet hum of the highway and the roar of my thoughts. I should have seen it coming. The signs were always there, like when I paid the down payment on my parents' new roof, and my mother thanked Eli for coordinating the contractor, or when Ryan called me crying over a bounced rent check, and I wired him $1,500 before he even asked. He posted a selfie that night. New headphones, bottle service, neon lights, with the caption "Earned, not given." I used to think they didn't understand how much I did for them. Now I realize they just didn't care. Back in my apartment, I kicked off my shoes and sat on the couch. I opened my banking app, scrolling through transaction after transaction. $900, Mom and Dad's electric bill, done $200, Eli's emergency tuition payment, $2,000, Ryan's social media camera upgrade, and a standing monthly transfer of $1,900 for the family mortgage. I stared at the numbers like they were a foreign language. I had made all these payments automatic, quiet, hidden, so I wouldn't have to confront how much I was really giving, how much I was slowly bleeding. My thumb hovered over the cancel auto transfer button. I hesitated, just for a second. Then I tapped it. Recurring payment canceled. A notification popped up. And with it came something unexpected. Not guilt, not fear, relief. It felt like someone had lifted 1,000 pounds off my chest, like I could finally breathe in my own home. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay on the couch thinking about every birthday I skipped because I was working overtime, every vacation I canceled to help with bills, every version of me that dimmed herself just to keep everyone else comfortable. And for what? I was never the daughter they praised, never the sister they respected. I was a bank. And now, that bank had just closed. The next morning, my phone rang at 7:03 a.m. I didn't even need to look at the screen. Mom. I let it buzz until it stopped. Then it rang again. Dad, then Eli, then Ryan, then Mom again. On the 5th call, I picked up. Before I could say anything, my mother's voice pierced through the speaker. Tight, trembling, laced with barely contained anger. Claire, did you cancel the payment? The mortgage didn't go through this month. I took a slow breath. Yes, I did. Silence. Then sharp as glass. What? I stood by the window, watching the rain streak down the glass. Because I realized something, Mom. I've been paying for a family that doesn't see me as family, and I'm done. Her breath caught. Claire, this isn't like you. We depend on that support. I didn't raise my voice. I know, that's the problem. You're being selfish, she snapped. You think money makes you better than everyone else? I laughed, short, quiet, bitter. No, but it does pay your bills and Eli's and Ryan's, and maybe it's time someone else started pulling their weight. There was a pause, then her voice turned cold, like steel wrapped in velvet. This isn't the daughter we raised. I nodded slowly, even though she couldn't see me. You're right, it's not. You raised someone who believed love was earned through sacrifice. But I've outgrown that version of me. And then, before she could say another word, I hung up. I didn't cry, didn't second guess it, didn't feel like a traitor. I felt clear. A few minutes later, the text started pouring in. From Eli. You're unbelievable. You cut us off over a stupid will? From Ryan. Hope your career keeps you warm at night. You've lost your family. From Mom again. Don't expect to be welcome at Thanksgiving. Each message tried to guilt me, shame me, pull me back into that role I used to play. The dependable one, the ATM with a heart. But they didn't realize that version of me was gone. I blocked all their numbers, one by one. No drama, no grand gesture, just a quiet line in the sand. And for the first time in years, the silence that followed felt like freedom. 3 weeks passed, 3 quiet, glorious weeks. No calls, no guilt-tripping texts, no panicked requests for rent, repairs, or emergency car payments. I woke up when I wanted, took long walks without checking my phone, sat in coffee shops, sipping slowly, not thinking about how many hours of work it would take to cover someone else's irresponsibility. Then one Friday evening, as the golden light faded through my kitchen window, my phone buzzed. A single message from my mother. Family meeting tomorrow, 7 p.m. Don't be late. No greeting, no explanation. Just a command. I stared at the screen for a long time. Part of me wanted to ignore it. But another part, the one that still believed in the possibility of closure, whispered, Go. Just once. See it through. So I went. Their house looked exactly the same. Same hedges, same faded welcome mat, same windows glowing with warm light that never reached me. Inside, the tension hit me like humidity. Thick, heavy, manufactured. Eli and Ryan were already there, arms crossed. Expressions smug, like they'd been rehearsing this confrontation all day. Dad stood near the fireplace, jaw tight. Mom sat in her usual armchair, eyes puffy, mascara smudged like she'd been crying. She looked at me and spoke first. Claire, I don't understand you anymore. Her voice cracked, part sadness, part performance. How far are you planning to go in tearing this family apart? I blinked. What are you talking about? Dad let out a loud sigh. You've put us in serious financial trouble. If you keep being stubborn, your mother's going to collapse from the stress. I folded my arms, leaning slightly against the wall. So, now I'm the reason Mom is exhausted? What about the 10 years I covered this family's expenses? She seemed fine when I was paying your mortgage and tuition and utilities. Eli scoffed. You always make everything about money. Ryan leaned forward, his voice cold. Come on, Claire, you've got a good job. A nice life. Why are you being dramatic over a few $1,000s? I stared at them, at the faces I once called family, and I finally saw it. They would never get it. They didn't want to. They were addicted to my sacrifices. And now that the supply was cut off, they were unraveling. I stood up. If this is why you called me here, to shame me back into obedience, then don't bother. My mother's voice rose. What did you just say? I walked toward the door, slowly. I said I'm not coming back. Dad opened his mouth like he wanted to argue, but nothing came out. Eli looked stunned. Ryan scoffed again, but it felt empty this time. I turned to face them one last time. I've done everything I could to be part of this family, but if my only value here is how much I can give, then I don't belong at this table. And I walked out. No one followed me. No one called my name. The door clicked shut behind me like a full stop. A final line in a chapter that never deserved a sequel. 2 days later, I came home late from work, arms full of groceries, tired but content. I'd started cooking more, small quiet rituals just for myself. I had picked up a bottle of wine, a new book, and was planning to spend the evening wrapped in soft light and solitude. But when I reached my apartment door, something was wrong. The doorknob wouldn't budge. I looked closer. The entire frame was sealed shut. Thick lines of hardened industrial foam stuffed into every crack, every seam, even around the keyhole. I stepped back slowly, heart pounding. This wasn't a prank. This was deliberate. I ran down the hall to check the security camera, fast-forwarded the footage. There, Ryan, wearing a hoodie and baseball cap, but I knew that walk, that swagger. He stood outside my apartment for 15 minutes, calmly spraying expanding foam into every crevice like it was just another chore. When he finished, he smirked, then walked away. My hands shook as I called the police. An officer came, watched the footage, and said calmly, "This is criminal vandalism. Do you want to press charges?" I didn't hesitate. Yes. For years, I had protected them, forgiven them, absorbed every insult and disrespect. But this was my boundary. The next day, my father called. I didn't answer. Then Eli, then finally, Mom. I picked up. Her voice was frantic. "Claire, your brother just got taken in by the police. What did you do?" I took a slow breath. He vandalized my home. He tried to lock me out of my life. There are consequences. Her voice dropped an octave, sharp, cold. "How much is it going to take to make this go away?" $3,000, I said. "Enough to fix the door, the frame, and rekey the building. I have the receipts." She gasped. "Extorting your own brother?" I almost laughed. "No, Mom. This is what it looks like when someone finally says, 'I'm done being your target.'" Later that evening, I received the money. A cold, bitter note was attached. "Here, don't ever contact us again." I read it, set it down, and felt absolutely nothing. No ache, no regret, just a stillness, like the storm had passed. And I had stayed standing. But the real storm was still coming. Because when I opened Facebook a few days later, I saw exactly what they were planning to do next. They weren't just cutting me off. They were rewriting the story. And this time, they were making me the villain. There it was, a long post from my mother's account, public, tagged, shared, already filled with sympathetic comments. It breaks my heart to say this, but our daughter Claire has chosen to abandon us in our time of need. After all we've sacrificed to raise her, she's cut ties, refused help, and even involved the police against her own brother. I read every word slowly. It was carefully written, just manipulative enough to sound like truth. There was no mention of the money I sent for 10 straight years, no mention of Ryan sealing my apartment shut, no mention of the silence I endured while they praised my brothers and ignored me. The comments made my stomach twist. "So sad, young people have no respect anymore. Parents give everything and this is how they're repaid?" Claire sounds like she let success go to her head. I stared at the screen, heart pounding, not from shame, but from something colder, clearer, resolve. For so long, I let them shape the narrative, let them speak louder, while I stayed quiet to keep the peace. But now, I had nothing left to lose. So I opened my phone, tapped New Post, and I told the truth. Since my family wants to make this public, let me clarify a few things. For over a decade, I paid my parents' mortgage. I funded my brother's tuition, car repairs, and their lifestyles. When they cut me out of their will, I didn't argue. I walked away. I stopped the payments. In return, my brother vandalized my home. I called the police because I had to. This isn't about betrayal. It's about boundaries. This isn't revenge. It's reality. And I will no longer be quiet. I hit post. Within hours, the comment section exploded. Some distant cousins messaged me, shocked. Old family friends started asking questions. My Aunt Daisy texted, "I always wondered how your parents kept the house when your dad stopped working. I had no idea it was all you." But the most notable response came from Mom. She called me 5 times. I didn't answer. Finally, I picked up. Her voice was seething. "Claire, what the hell did you just do?" I told the truth. "You're humiliating this family." "No," I said. "I am this family, or at least I was. And I'm done being erased." She went silent. Then came the final blow. "If you do this, don't expect to come back. We are no longer your family." I closed my eyes, felt the words sink in, then said, "You were never my family. Not really. I was just your accountant with a pulse." And I hung up. No shaking hands, no second guessing. That was the last time I ever heard her voice. And for the first time in my life, the silence felt like peace. Part 8. Epilogue and Moral. It's been over a year since I walked away from the only family I ever knew. And yet, strangely, I've never felt more at home. My apartment is still the same, but it feels different now. It's no longer a stopover between paychecks and phone calls begging for help. It's mine, truly mine. There are plants on the windowsill, books I've actually had time to read, silence that no longer feels empty, only honest, only earned. I haven't heard from my parents since that last call. No apologies, no letters, not even another guilt-filled voicemail. And I no longer wait for one. Because I've learned that closure isn't something you get from others. It's something you choose to give yourself. I've traveled to Italy, to Portugal, to places where no one knows my history. No one expects me to save them, where I'm not the responsible one, I'm just Claire. And one evening in Florence, on a rooftop painted in sunset, a man named Marco asked me, "What do you miss most about home?" I looked at him for a moment, smiled softly and said, "Nothing, because I finally built one of my own. A home not built on obligation, but on boundaries, on choice, on love that doesn't ask for receipts." So here's what I've learned. Family is not the people who share your blood. It's the ones who don't flinch when you say no. It's the ones who see your worth without needing a wire transfer. It's the people who stay, not because they need something from you, but because they value you for who you are. If you're listening to this, and you've ever felt like you had to earn your place at your own family's table, please hear me. You don't owe your peace to people who thrive on your exhaustion. You don't have to set yourself on fire to keep others warm. You don't need to keep proving your worth to those committed to never seeing it. Sometimes, walking away isn't the end. It's the beginning of a life where you finally come first. So I'll ask you this. What would you do if your family only saw you when you were giving? Would you keep giving until there's nothing left? Or would you finally choose yourself? Let me know in the comments. Tell me your story. Because maybe, somewhere in your truth, someone else will find the courage to start over. And if this story stayed with you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear this. Because sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away with nothing and still choose to build everything. This was Claire's story. What will yours be?